Hey, we're back with one last episode from Azerbaijan. In this one, we're heading north to the Caucasus Mountains through some colorful candy as we go to the Russian border and almost run out of gas in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Plus, a traffic accident and how we flee the country to avoid a meeting with the police. I kid you not. My name is Palabo. We're back in the stunning nature of Azerbaijan.
This is the Radio Vagabond.
Before we start, let me remind you that this episode is supported in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best deals on hotel rooms, guest houses, and hostels all over the world. Just go to Hotels25.com and make a simple search.
We got a full tank of gas, it's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
When I left you in the last episode, we were at some mud volcanoes south of Baku. Today we hop back in the rental car and head northeast towards the stunning Caucasus Mountains. On the way there we see a guy in a residential area next to a playground selling fruits and vegetables out of his van. We buy a bit of fruit for the drive and chat to him. And he seemed like a nice guy with dreams for his future. So I pulled out my microphone.
Hi Murat, we are, where are we? We're not in Baku, we're outside, and I don't even know what this town is.
This country is Azerbaijan. This city is Sumgayit.
Uh-huh.
I was born here, I live here, and I never get, I didn't get any countries, Azerbaijan.
No. Is that a good country?
Yeah, good country, very good country.
Yeah. What's the best thing about living here?
Our people are kind, so kind, honest, and they love to help each other. If you go somewhere and you don't live here and you don't anyone, you need money, you need food, you need home, they can help you, everything.
So people help each other?
Helps each other.
Yeah. And the government as well takes care of the people?
Sometimes not. I don't know.
No.
I don't want to speak about my government.
I totally respect that. You run a food stand here, but you're telling me that you're going to Poland soon to educate more?
Yeah, actually, when I finished my school and I went to military and 1 year because we have to do our military.
Yeah.
Actually, then I came here and I need to work. I educated relationships and world economy, but I didn't get any work about this side.
Yeah.
That's why I get this vehicle, get some foods, and I'm selling this, get some money.
Yeah. And you're doing good business here.
Yeah, actually.
We see a stream of customers all the time.
Yeah, actually I love speak to people. I want to improve my social, how can I say?
Social skills and
yes.
circles and network.
Yes, my network. Then when I get the big money, about 15,000 manat, then I go to Poland in November. In my country, the November is November. Yes.
It was so nice to meet you, and we got some fruit, so now we're gonna keep driving and enjoy the fruit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. Actually, I can give you peach apple, some. It's a gift.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting into the mountains while munching on a juicy apple. I had that giddy excitement. You know the one when you're just about to see something you've been dreaming about. Yeah, that's me right now. On the road, we make a short detour to check out the Candy Cane Mountains. Why are they called the Candy Cane Mountains, you ask? Well, the colors. These stripy, colorful hills are a part of the Greater Caucasus Range. The nickname came from British travel writer Mark Elliott, who must have had a sugar craving while writing his guidebook, Azerbaijan with Excursions to Georgia. But he wasn't wrong. These things look like they belong in Willy Wonka's backyard. The crazy colors are thanks to groundwater messing with the iron compounds in the earth, turning the rocks into nature's candy stripes. We pull over to snap some pictures. Go see them on the RadioVagabond.com.
You can see pictures, videos, and links and read much more on the RadioVagabond.com.
And I swear, we see maybe 2 cars the entire time. 2 ladders, of course. It's not like we're totally off the grid, but it sure feels like that. After some quiet time in this natural wonderland, we roll into a tiny village. We're starving, so we check out one of the 3 quote-unquote restaurants. The first one shows us a cooler with beef slabs that looks like they've been there a long time. Hard pass. Next up, a cozy little spot that feels like a mom-and-pop diner, straight out of a small western city, except there's no menu in English. But the mom in the place is chopping fresh veggies, and the pop seemed friendly enough, so we're sold. That turned out to be a smart move. The place is spotless, the food is fresh, and we got the place to ourselves. And then the bill comes. $3 for both of us, with $2 of that going to the Coke. Now, that's what I call fine dining.
And now, Digital Nomad Check.
I've grown to like Azerbaijan by now. So as we're driving, I'm thinking, could this be the next digital nomad hotspot? It might not be up here in a small village in the mountains, but let's look at the details for the capital, Baku.
Cost of living.
Baku offers an affordable cost of living for digital nomads. You can get by for around $600 to $1,000 per month, a bit less in euros, for accommodation, food, transportation, and other daily expenses. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment can range between $300 and $500 per month, depending on location. Meals at local restaurants are also budget-friendly, costing around $3 to $5 per meal.
Internet speed.
The average internet speed in Baku might not be the fastest compared to other digital nomad hotspots, but it's generally stable enough for standard remote work. If you need faster speeds for like uploading big video files, you can find co-working spaces and specific accommodations with better connections.
Quality of life.
Baku has a nice mix of modern life and history. There are many cafes, interesting buildings, and a lovely seaside promenade. Public transport is good, and the city feels safe, but note that the air quality can sometimes be a problem because of nearby industries.
English speaking level.
While Azerbaijani is the official language, you can get by with English in tourist areas, cafes, and hotels. Outside of major cities like Baku, English speakers can be harder to find, as we'll find out in a few minutes. So knowing a few words in Azerbaijani or Russian can be helpful, like how to say gas in Azerbaijani.
Overall score.
According to nomadlist.com, it's got a 3 out of 5 score. So Baku is a great choice for digital nomads looking for an affordable city with a unique cultural mix. It offers a low cost of living, decent internet, and plenty to explore, though some areas like internet speed and nightlife might fall short of what nomads are used to in other destinations.
And that was
Digital Nomad Check.
After lunch, we continue to Cuba. Hey, I see that confused look on your face. It's actually a city here in Azerbaijan, Cuba, and it's spelled with a Q. This city is at 600 meters on the northwest slopes of Caucasus Mountain, and with about 40,000 people, it's big enough for us to use as a base for the next couple of days. We're staying in a brand new apartment. So new that I had the honor of taking the plastic wrap off the TV. Now that's a fresh crib. Speaking of wrap, we also wrap up the first day in the mountains with a stroll through Cuba's Central Park and check out the Juma Mosque, built in 1802 from bright red bricks. Next up, 2 days of road tripping into the mountains. Expect breathtaking views, tiny mountain villages, and a whole lot of adventure. We'll be right back. First, I'd like to say a few words about what I do when I'm not doing the Radio Vagabond. As you know, I'm a digital nomad, and what I do is helping companies and individuals start their podcast. Are you looking for somebody to make your podcast sound amazing? Then I'm your guy. Drop me a line and let's get started.
He's the Radio Vagabond, podcasting his way across continents and cultures. Man, he's got it made. He's the Radio Vagabond, the world in his view, inspiring adventures bold and true.
The following day was spent winding through the stunning Caucasus Mountains. And let me tell you, the landscape was nothing short of jaw-dropping. Every turn revealed a new scene that made you want to stop and take it all in. Towering peaks, rolling green valleys, and clouds so close that you feel like you can reach out and touch them. It's like Mother Nature decided to show off, and we're here for exactly that. Cuba is just 45 minutes from the Russian border. Naturally, that made us curious enough to take a detour. Why? Well, looking back, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe we thought we'd run into something exciting, or maybe it was just Cynthia wanted her perfect selfie with the Russia sign and an arrow pointing the way that she brought from back home. No one really knows. But after a quick snapshot and a "look, we're this close to Russia" moment, we head back south. Our next stop was Kinalik, an ancient mountain village pierced high up in the Caucasus. This place is wild. It's one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in the world, with people living here for over 5,000 years. It's truly like stepping into a time capsule. The houses are made of stone, stacked on the mountainside like something out of a fantasy movie, and the views are nothing short of epic. At over 2,300 meters above sea level, Kinalik feels like the top of the world. But while we're soaking in all the history and the beauty, we realize that we're running low on gas, and we're still in the middle of nowhere.
Long drive.
Drive, Cuba.
Yeah. And we almost have no gas on the car.
For the last hour, we've been hunting something that would look like a gas station, but not a single one in sight. We started to get a bit nervous, running on fumes as we crawl through the gorgeous narrow mountain roads. In the village, finally, with a mix of pantomime and desperation, we managed to explain to a local that we needed gas.
Is there any place to get gas?
Yes.
Gas here?
Petrol?
Petrol?
Yes.
Up there.
Come.
An older man gave us a thumbs up and confidently motioned that he could help.
Let's go.
Turns out that the man had a stash of gasoline in jugs.
Octane 92, yeah? 5 liters.
So it's crazy sunny up here. I don't know what altitude we're at, but we are really high. We're in a teeny little town. And there's actually a market here. It's a one-story building with a young girl, maybe high school age, and an older gentleman. You can get anything in there from raw chicken to hardware. And we happened to ask if there was any place for fuel, and here's a guy who has a locked container and a big can. Well, at least he's got a hose.
And in a true DIY fashion, he grabbed the hose.
He's sucking on the tube.
Sucked on it until gas hit his mouth. Seriously. And then he filled a few jugs into our tank.
How much is 5 liters?
Doesn't matter. He can charge us what he wants to.
At that point, we didn't care about the cost. We were just relieved to avoid being stranded in the mountains.
He's pouring a lot of fuel in. Actually seems like a lot of fuel to me. Too much fuel. Does it seem like a lot to you? No, we don't. No more.
Let's just say mountain hospitality saved the day.
And our fueling is complete. We really just needed to top off. We should have said 2. Doesn't matter now.
With gas enough in the tank to get us down the mountain, we felt very grateful. And even though he could basically charge us anything, he didn't. It was more or less what gas cost at any gas station. Before we get to Baku for our last day, let's have a look at law and order in Azerbaijan.
And now, is there law and order in this country? How is the crime rate here?
Azerbaijan has a low crime rate, especially compared to many Western cities. Violent crimes are rare. Most incidents are petty theft, like pickpocketing or scams, often in tourist areas, like any major city. Baku, the capital, is considered safe for both locals and visitors, but it's good to stay alert, especially at night or in busy places.
Is it safe here?
Azerbaijan is safe for travelers, with only a few reports of violent crime. Baku has a strong police presence, which helps make the city feel secure. The roads and general infrastructure has also improved, making it easier to travel around. But of course you should avoid the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict zone, where tensions with Armenia are still high. This area isn't safe for anyone.
Is there corruption here?
Corruption is a known issue in Azerbaijan. It affects different areas like business and law enforcement. According to Transparency International, a global organization focused on fighting corruption and promoting transparency in governments and institutions, Azerbaijan ranks low on the Corruption Perception Index, meaning bribery can be a problem in institutions like the police or courts. While travelers won't face this directly, it's something to be aware of, especially if dealing with legal or bureaucratic matters. And this becomes a thing for us that same night.
He's the radio vagabond with tales at every face, charting maps, unknowing man, he's got it made, These vagabond shoes, they're blazing his crusade. Every step, every story, gotta keep moving.
Back in Baku, on our last night, we decided to visit the Haydar Aliyev Center. You know, the iconic building known for its smooth, flowing curves, resembling a giant wave. We'd already admired it from the outside, and since it was close to where we were staying, we thought we'd take a walk over there to see the inside. As the sun was setting, we could see that the building was just across a fairly busy road. Traffic was only coming from the left, and after the last car had passed, I started walking. Cynthia, just a few steps behind me, hadn't noticed that a car had stopped to drop off some passengers. Just as she stepped forward, the driver reversed, not having seen her in his rearview mirror.
So because the 6 lanes of traffic was all coming from the left and you were to the left of me by 10 feet, 3 meters, give or take, for some reason I did glance to the right, and I shouldn't have, because there was no reason for me to look to the right. But I did just as I stepped off the curb, because I had seen this guy stop illegally on the highway, and he let people out, and I had seen him do this. Then I had looked the other direction to look at the traffic again, and for some reason I glanced back to the right, and at that moment I did see the taillights. And I don't remember anything after that. After that, I woke up on the ground, and you were there, and the security guard in the green vest was there, and the people from the taxi and the driver were there.
I heard a yell, and by the time I turned around, it was clear that she'd been hit. Not hard, but enough to knock her off balance.
So my recollection of the situation is that although the traffic had cleared the 6 lanes, I had seen that this car had stopped illegally on my right and dropped people off. And for some reason, although I was focused on the left where the traffic might come from, at the last second, probably as I stepped off the curb, I did glance to the right because I saw the taillights and I knew he was going to hit me. And I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember falling. I don't remember using my left hand to brace myself on the fall. I just woke up on the ground and you were there, the security guard was there, and the people from the car were there.
But he didn't hit you hard.
No, the bumper was just above me, but I wasn't under the car. Another foot and this would have been much worse.
Thankfully, the driver heard her scream and stopped before it got worse. But as she fell, she landed on her arm, and it was immediately clear that something was very wrong.
Although I don't recollect it consciously, I must have unconsciously put my hand out to break the fall, knowing that I was going to land on the left side because he was going to hit me from the right.
The guy in the car, who explained that he was an Uber driver, or the local equivalent, rushed out of the car, apologizing profusely. I told him that we needed to get her to the hospital right now, and he offered to drive us. The rush hour traffic in Baku made what would have been a short drive feel painfully slow. 45 minutes later, we arrived at a hospital, only to find out that they didn't have an emergency room. We had to get back in the car and drive another half an hour to find one.
Yeah. They put me in a really rickety wheelchair that you wouldn't use it anywhere. Took me roughly across the parking lot, which was quite painful for me.
By the time I noticed blood on Cynthia's sleeve, but I didn't want to point it out. She was already in pain, and it wasn't helpful to add more worry. Fortunately, the long sleeves hid the fact that the bone had pierced through the skin. After another long wait at the real hospital, she was finally admitted to seeing a doctor. As they cut her sleeve and exposed the injury, it became clear just how serious it was. Her hand was out of its socket.
Shockingly, although a car hit me, nothing did break. The hand and the arm were separated. And there was also shockingly little blood, which I still don't understand. How there could be so little when a hand and arm get separated.
Even after hours had passed, the driver still remained at the hospital, deeply upset and concerned about what had happened. He was crying when I spoke to him, felt terrible for Cynthia, and also feared what the accident might mean for him financially. He knew he could lose everything. Things became even more stressful when the police arrived and began questioning me about the accident, relying on Google Translate to communicate. They also stayed for hours, asking for details while Cynthia was still receiving treatment. In between all this, I called a local friend, Siva.
So, in Florida, one of my close friends did a video chat with Siva, one of his close friends, because we were planning the trip, and we met up with her our first night in town, right downtown, and had a great evening at a pub with her.
She's a close friend of one of Cynthia's friends in Florida, and we met her a few days earlier. I asked if she could help translating for me and the police. "I'll be right there," she said. Having her there made the whole situation more manageable, but the hospital was chaotic. People were everywhere, including children in the room while the doctor was working on Cynthia's bloody arm.
Being in that room, and there were 2 children in there, when they physically put me back together, and they kept pouring anesthesia in it, and those 2 guys who claimed to be orthopedists put me back together incorrectly, obviously I now know, in front of 2 small children. In an office, it wasn't even a medical, examining room or anything. And there were 6 people in there, and you were running back and forth because they kept trying to get ID and all of this stuff. But no, I don't remember.
I remember you almost started hyperventilating, and I thought, okay, so I told you, look at me, don't look at it, look at me, over here.
You were on the right and the guys
were on the left. I was sitting next to you, and I said, no, don't look at it, because I thought you would almost go into shock.
I remember holding your hand, and I didn't look.
No, we looked away.
Yeah.
You looked at me and said, you're right, and then you looked at me, so, yeah.
The doctor, despite the conditions, said that he could probably reset the hand. With 2 people pulling her arm and him pulling the hand, they managed to pop it back into place. After that, they applied a cast, and while things seemed stable, it was clear that she needed further medical attention.
They told me I had to have it checked. I don't remember the time frame, but something like a couple of days later I needed to have it checked.
After exchanging WhatsApp details with the police, we headed back to our Airbnb with Siva by our side. We had tickets to go to Georgia the next morning, and we were eager to get Cynthia to a country with better healthcare for a proper checkup. The hospital we'd just left wasn't exactly the most reassuring experience. But there were 2 problems. First, it wasn't ideal to travel with her injury still fresh. And second, I received a message from the police asking us to come to the station at 10 a.m. the next morning to give a formal statement, with an interpreter present. While Cynthia and I were discussing this, Siva was on the phone with a local attorney friend who advised us against going to the police station. He warned that, despite Cynthia being completely innocent, the police might try to extort a bribe, knowing that there was very little to gain from the driver, but possibly more from an American.
He wanted us to leave then. He was encouraging us to, because it was must be about 9 o'clock at night. I don't really remember. It was late, and I was physically exhausted. I couldn't walk to the lobby. I'd more or less leave. And so she continued talking with him, and he said he knew the shift change was at 6 o'clock the next morning, and he thought that the police would show up at the hotel because they knew where we were staying because the driver had dropped us off there. And he thought they would show up even though we had an appointment at 10 o'clock. So he wanted us out of the hotel by 6, which worked fine because the flight was 9 or 9:30, and we had to leave by 6 anyways. So we got up and we took that flight.
He said 6 words that made the decision for us. Get out of the country now. And so we did.
We left the country to flee the crooked cops. It was convenient. We had a ticket to go to Georgia, but both of us, our first reaction was I needed to stay and get medical care. I shouldn't have been on a plane, which you shouldn't fly right after you have surgery. There's all blood clots and problems. But we literally left because Siva's lawyer friend said, get out, get away from the crooked cops, and he was very definite about it, that the system there does not operate like Western Europe and the United States.
The following days, I continued receiving messages from the police interpreter. I did tell him one thing, that Cynthia chose not to press charges against the driver. There didn't seem to be any benefit from dragging the situation out for him.
It wouldn't have done any good. It wasn't intentional, it wasn't malicious. It was an accident, it was a horrible accident, but there's no reason it wouldn't have changed anything. They had already gotten the driver for the equivalent of 1 month's salary, and if I had pressed charges, then the boss of the guy who was at the hospital who benefited on the first round, when his boss gets involved, it becomes worse for the driver, and they can take even more money. And because he was telling us that his mother had just had some kind of surgery, maybe she'd had a heart attack or something, I don't remember, but he had had to spend a lot of money to help his mom, and he just didn't have it.
Once we arrived to Tbilisi, our first priority was finding a good hospital to give Cynthia's arm the attention it needed. But that's a story for another episode.
We will now be arriving at the end of this installment of the Radio Vagabond. Please remember all your belongings when you leave the episode.
Overall, Azerbaijan was a fascinating experience, though it ended up in a way we never anticipated. It's a reminder that the unexpected things can happen anywhere, but I still highly recommend the visit to this country that many would struggle to find on a map.
Mind the gap between this episode and the next one.
My name is Palabo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya!
Radio Vagabond.
Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.